Good morning. Welcome to a special edition of the Afternoon Drive. There'll be no graphics, there'll be no intro music, there'll be no clips. This is just me and you sharing a cup of coffee together. I have I am working from home today. We've got a special event coming up at the church I pastor this weekend, and I need to do some studio work, some audio work, some video work for the church ministry, and I'll do that from my home studio today. So I'm just sitting here in the kitchen having my morning cup of coffee. You can probably hear the washing machine in the other room in the background. You might hear the dog walking around, and occasionally you might hear one of the cats crying out for food because apparently they think they need to eat literally every 15 minutes. So, welcome to my home, literally. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what is going on with this whole Kamala effect, because I know many of you are getting angst to the point that this is unbelievable. Has the whole country bought into some kind of delusion? I'm going to answer that in a simple question, in a simple statement. Yes, they have. They have. And I'm going to say a couple things right now that are going to seem hard on President Trump. I am a 100% Trump supporter. I have been a Trump supporter since he took that escalator ride and declared his candidacy in 2015. I am firmly on the Trump train. But there are times that he can be his own worst enemy. And by the way, I have had to have people in my own life, mentors and friends, at times speak into my life and tell me, you know what, you're not helping yourself right now. You are making the situation worse. You are saying the wrong thing. You are not making the best decision right here. And President Trump needs people like that in his life. It was great. He and Elon did the big interview on Twitter. But the bottom line is you got to stop coming across as angry that you've been cheated, that you have been denied what was rightfully yours. Your supporters, we already know all that. But right now, you've got to re-engage the independents. You've got to re-engage people who were going to vote for you, and now they have drifted back to the Democratic Party because of this great delusion of enthusiasm, and Kamala is the it girl. So you got to stop rehashing the stuff that you have already hashed and rehashed and hashed some more. Keep your message simple. Follow the KISS formula. Keep it simple, Simon. You just want to drive home the main points of the border is open, the economy is broken, and we're on the brink of war around this planet because of a wretched foreign policy. And you've got someone who is responsible for all of it. Let me tell you what they're doing in this great delusion, this great reset of Kamala Harris. They are distancing her from Joe Biden. They are pulling her away from the Biden administration as if she had nothing to do with any of these decisions. And they're trying to do two things at the same time. They're trying to, on the one hand, pull her away from Joe Biden and his disastrous policies. Yet at the same time, they want to give her the Obama treatment and that she is the inevitable winner of this because she's almost an incumbent without being an incumbent. See, they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to separate her from Biden, yet at the same time, they're trying to present her as presidential right now. That's why she gives her speeches from behind the official vice presidential seal. I mean, it's you know, and they flank her with the flags behind her like she already is the president. So they're trying to separate her from the aspects of the Biden ministry that they know don't work, which is most of their policies. And here's what you got to do, President Trump. I cannot implore you enough on this. Here's what you got to do. I wouldn't even call it anymore the Biden-Harris economy or the Biden-Harris broken border. I'd make everything her. I'd make everything her. I'd make everything her. I'd double down on it and I'd make everything her. It's Kamala's broken border. That's why you've got drugs in the streets that are crossing the southern border, the fentanyl. It's why you've got You've got sex trafficking that is out of control. It's why we've got criminals running our streets because Kamala opened the border. You've got to talk about, you can't believe her when she says she's going to somehow bring down prices for you, that she's going to make your groceries affordable, that she's going to make the interest rate on your home affordable, that she's going to make gas affordable, which, by the way, gas is going to go up big time now as we're on the verge of war in the Middle East. And, of course, all the oil-producing countries that we are literally at their mercy because Kamala Harris's administration made us energy dependent on them rather than energy independent the way Trump had it set up. And those are the things you got to just keep driving it home, and make it all, it was Harris, it was Harris, it was Harris. Well, you get fact check. He gets fact check on facts. I mean, think of the things that he gets accused of, and they just keep, he's a convicted felon. He paid a porn star. You know, I mean, they just keep hitting the same things over and over and over. They attribute things that he never said, you know, Charlottesville and this and that, and they just keep hitting it. Listen, the media is already so tainted toward Kamala and giving her the Obama treatment, Mr. President. You got to keep the message simple and on point. It's the borders, it's the economy, it's war. It's the borders, it's the economy, it's war. It's the borders, it's the economy, it's war. And then, Mr. President, you need a game changer. Because a lot of people feel like, well, I've heard all this stuff from Trump before. But Kamala, she's kind of new and she's not really telling us a lot, but it's exciting and there's enthusiasm. You know what? You gotta give them something new, Mr. President. And this is where a lot of conservatives are about to get very upset with me because I talked about this over a year ago and I'm going to bring it up again. You need a brand new policy. Look at how she's trying to steal your no tax on tips. I mean, that's you, Mr. President. And I know from having read your books and listened to your interviews back in the day, you're a proponent of national health care. And as a conservative, I was never really on board with the concept of national health care, but we look around this country and we see the rising costs of literally of everything, in particular health care, and the fact that there are the working poor that cannot afford health care. They are not provided health care. There needs to be national health care. I know the great fears about national health care. Things like during the pandemic, we wondered, gee, if we'd had national health care, would they have cut us off from that if we had refused love potion number 9? So there needs to be a way to keep patients and individual liberty rights in this, but you come up with national health care, and you get out there on that stump and you say, we're going to start taking some of the money that we have used to make war around the planet, and we are going to make medical accessibility affordable for everyone in our country, because that's part of making America great again, is making and keeping America healthy and strong as Americans. That's a winning message. And if you can craft it simply and on point and explain it in about 4 bullet points on your website, a real national health care. And don't just speak in platitudes. We're going to make it so much better than Obamacare. No. You got to kind of spell out, here's what we're going to do. And every and any American can have it and have access to it. I mean, and it won't be like Obamacare where, $500 a month basically gets you free aspirin. No, you're going to make this affordable and accessible. Affordable and accessible. And I wouldn't call it Trump care. Don't do that. Call it America care. Make it American. Don't make it about Barack Obama. Don't make it about you. Make it about Americans. This is going to help you, the American people. You've got to have a big new policy. You've got to. Because when you start in on certain things like what happened in 2020 with the election, people just immediately tune you out, and the lying legacy media just goes after you for whining and complaining. So, Mr. President, please hear me on this. Now, there is something you can learn from Kamala, and I know you don't want to hear this, but her message is pretty disciplined. You listen to her stump speech, and it's the same speech she gives everywhere. I can tell you, having done public speaking all of my life, especially in the arena of preaching, I'm a pastor, so that means that every week I have to come up with fresh material. Sundays, Wednesdays, I pastor churches that had 2 services on Sunday, 2 midweek services. I was having to come up with 4 fresh messages a week. Now I have to come up with 2, but they have to be fresh. And that doesn't mean that I don't incorporate certain things that I have already taught through the years, but it does mean it needs to be fresh. Now, an evangelist, on the other hand, they have the luxury of coming into a church because they travel and speak. They have the luxury of coming into a church, and usually their first sermon out of the box, because, in order to gather a crowd every night to come back and hear them, that first message it's got to land. I mean, it's got to stick. It's got to be an Olympic, 10.0 perfect stick landing in gymnastics. Evangelists could do that because they've got a message or 2 or a half a dozen in their arsenal that they have preached 100 times, 1,000 times, depending on how many years they've been at it. They know every point from memory. They can just stick the landing. And the people love it, and then they come out the next night, the next night, the next night, the next night. Mr. President, you need a speech like that. You need a speech like that. Ronald Reagan had the City on the Hill speech. Lincoln is known for the Gettysburg Address. You need that kind of speech. You need a speech where you keep it simple. Border, economy, war, and then roll out your brand new policy, America Care. Now, that doesn't mean you can't give yourself a 10-minute window in there to get off the teleprompter and be you and, smack Kamala around a little bit verbally and, talk about this wingnut lunatic socialist Walz that, every day we're finding out more and more about him. And let's really turn the veterans loose on this guy. I mean, really let the veterans ravage this guy. And Mr. Trump, you focus on his policies that were soft on pedophiles and his wife likes to smell, people's hopes and dreams burning up. Now, let me say something to the rest of you. As a pastor, I'm going to go in a direction that I normally don't go here, but I'm going to go here today because I think you need it. And I need you to listen. Even if you are a diehard conservative, but you consider yourself an atheist, I need you to listen. A little while ago, I gave my dog a milk bone. And I don't know what it is, but I absolutely love to watch my dog eat a milk bone. I don't know why, other than I am fascinated by the fact that other dogs I've had, you hand them a milk bone, they just kind of crunch it down. Now, the dog that I have now, his name is Fletcher. He will take that milk bone, for whatever reason, into the living room. I think he likes to lay on the rug. And he lays down with it, and he holds that milk bone in his paws. And I watch, and his paws kind of spread out a little bit, almost like fingers. And he just reminds me of like a 5-year-old kid holding an ice cream cone with both hands. And then I watch him chew it down. I go in the woods, I hunt. And sometimes I really never take a shot at anything because I am so intrigued after I get there, I'll get watching 2 chipmunks chasing each other. Or I'll watch a squirrel sunning himself up on a tree limb, and then eventually I watch him as he works apart a shell around a nut and how he eats it. And I will just become absolutely just enthralled and focused on that. And that's when it hits me. How can anybody look at creation and look at creatures and not believe there's a God? It's so intricate. Just watching a dog eat a milk bone, and you think, how can anybody think that all of this came from nothing? I've said for years, it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to believe in God. I'm sorry, it just does. Because what you're trying to convince yourself and everyone around you is that everything came from absolutely nothing. Because at the end of the day, there is one question an atheist cannot answer, that an evolutionist cannot answer. How did it all start? And you can talk about a Big Bang, but those gases that collided, they had to come from somewhere, because nothing produces nothing. You can have an empty box in your house, and unless you or someone else actually physically puts something in it, you can check that box every single day, and it is like one day you just open the box and, ooh, there's a misty vapor gas in there. Wow, nothing created that. No, it didn't. Nothing cannot create anything. So we can definitely make a case that there is divine design. The most infamous, if you want to use it that way, atheist of this age, Richard Dawkins. And even he, in a debate, was finally forced to admit it is conceivable that there is a supreme being behind all of this. Even he had to say, yes, that is certainly possible. Duh. What Richard Dawkins and most atheists hate is not simply the concept of God, but it's the God of the Bible. They don't like the God of the Bible because the God of the Bible is a God of thou shalt nots. They don't like that. And they don't like being told what to do. Or there was something that they wanted God to do for them and he didn't do it, therefore he doesn't exist. But the truth is this, there are millions of people who look at creation, and even though the Bible says that the heavens declare my glory, there are people who look at creation and say, this was all evolution. The fact that everything about each creature and the way we breathe and the way we walk and the way we can communicate, that all that just evolved. It just by random happen chance came into being. And then there's half the population of the world. So that's insane. How can you look at all of this and think it came from nothing? This is the same, I'm going to use a word that some of you are really not going to like. That is the same delusion taking place right now. They are looking at Kamala under delusion of she can fix it. She broke it. She broke it. She and Joe, they broke it. And you look at Donald Trump and you say he's evil and he's Orange Man and he's a dictator and he's this and that and blah, 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 blah. Everything worked under the Trump administration. That's not being reported. It's almost as if 3-4 weeks ago he wasn't shot. The media doesn't talk about it at all. Nothing to portray Donald Trump in a positive light. They threw everything at him, including indictments and guilty verdicts, and he's still standing and he's still moving forward. But they see the Kamala delusion. So, what's the answer, Pastor Marty? What do we do? Keep it simple. Stay on point. Border, economy, wars. And Mr. Trump, give us a big, bold, new policy. Something that forces Kamala to have to respond to. And I'm telling you, and this is where the conservatives are going to get mad at me, it's health care, it's health care, it's health care. Especially in this economy, if working families thought, you mean if I lose my job, I still have health care? Even if I've got a job, instead of a portion of my paycheck going for health care, I can have health care provided for me, which gives me some more expendable income to make it easier to live. I'm telling you, Mr. President, that's a winner.